Hey there, friends. Have you ever found yourself at the end of a long day, feeling like you've given every last drop of energy to everyone else? Your kids, your grandkids, maybe even a sibling or two, and there's nothing left for you. You sit down, hoping for a quiet moment, and then the phone rings with another request, another favor, another, "Mom, can you?" Or "Grandma, we need." It's exhausting, isn't it? And if you're over 60 like me, you might be noticing it hits a little harder than it used to. Family, they're the people we love most in the world, but sometimes without meaning to, they can drain us dry. I've been there, and I know that feeling of wanting to be there for them, but also wishing for a little peace of my own. That's what we're going to talk about today, how to reclaim that peace when family starts pulling you in 100 directions. After 60, your emotional well-being isn't just a nice to have, it's a must-have. It's about respecting yourself enough to enjoy these years, not just survive them. In this video, I'm going to share 4 simple boundaries you can set to protect your heart and your energy, all while still being the loving, wonderful person you are. These aren't about pushing people away, they're about making space for you too. So grab a cup of tea, settle in, and let's figure this out together. Let's start with something we all wish came a little easier, saying no without feeling like we've just kicked a puppy. I don't know about you, but for years, I thought no was a bad word. If my daughter needed me to watch the grandkids last minute, or my sister wanted me to drive her to an appointment, I'd say yes, even if I was bone tired or had plans of my own. I'd tell myself, they need me. I can't let them down. But here's what I learned the hard way. Saying yes to everything means saying no to yourself. And at our age, we've earned the right to put ourselves on that priority list. So, how do you say no without turning it into a big drama? Keep it simple and kind. You don't need a long explanation or an excuse that sounds like you're pleading guilty. Try something like, "Oh, I'd love to help, but I can't this time. I've got something I need to take care of." Or maybe, "That sounds like fun, but I'm going to sit this one out. Let me know how it goes." I started practicing this with my son when he'd ask me to run errands for him on a whim. At first, I felt this little pang, like I was letting him down, but then I'd see him figure it out, and I'd realize he was fine. And me? I got to enjoy my afternoon with a book instead of stuck in traffic. It's not selfish, it's fair. You're not closing the door on them, you're just opening one for yourself too. Now, while we're talking about making space for you, let's think about something that's pure gold at this stage of life: scheduling personal time. I used to think downtime just happened, like it'd magically appear between cooking dinner for the family or picking up the grandkids from school. But it doesn't work that way, does it? If you don't claim that time, someone else will. And before you know it, your days are full of everyone else's plans, and you're wondering when you last had a minute to breathe. Here's what I started doing, and it's been a game changer. I treat my personal time like an appointment. Maybe it's an hour in the morning to sip my coffee and watch the birds outside, or an afternoon to putter in the garden, or just sit with my thoughts. I put it on my calendar, mentally at least, and I guard it like it's a doctor's visit. If my niece calls and says, "Can you come over and help me sort through some old photos?" I'll say, "I'd love to, but I've got something on my schedule today. How about tomorrow instead?" It's not about being rigid. It's about giving yourself permission to rest, to recharge, to do something that fills your cup. My friend Betty swears by her Wednesday knitting hour. She tells her kids, "That's my time," and they've learned to respect it. And you know what? She's happier for it, and they still adore her. That's the magic of carving out a little corner of your day just for you. So, we've got saying no politely in our pocket and personal time locked in. Next, let's tackle something a bit trickier. Those guilt trips that family can lay on us without even realizing it. You know the ones I mean, right? We'll get into that in a heartbeat. So, we've been chatting about how saying no with a smile and carving out some personal time can start bringing a little calm back into your days. It's like putting up a gentle fence around your peace, not to keep family out, but to make sure you've got a spot to catch your breath. And now, let's talk about something that can sneak up on us all, those guilt trips that families sometimes send our way. You know what I'm talking about. That heavy sigh when you say you can't make it to every single event, or the, I guess I'll manage somehow, that makes you feel like you've just abandoned them on a desert island. It's tough because we love them, and they know just how to tug at our heartstrings. The trick here isn't to get mad or shut down. It's about redirecting that guilt before it settles in. Imagine your daughter says, "Mom, I really needed you to watch the kids today, and now I don't know what I'm going to do." Oof, that stings, right? Your first instinct might be to drop everything and rush over, even if you're worn out. But instead, try this. Acknowledge what they're feeling, then nudge the conversation somewhere else. You could say, "I hear you, sweetie, and I know it's a busy day. What about asking your neighbor if she's free, or maybe shifting things around a bit?" It's not cold, it's kind, and it keeps you from taking that guilt on your shoulders. I tried this with my brother once when he hinted I should host the family reunion again. I said, "I get it, you love my cooking, but I bet Sue's place would be perfect this year. She's got that big backyard." He grumbled a little, but he moved on, and I didn't spend the next week stressing over it. It's like steering a boat. You don't have to fight the current, just guide it where you want it to go. And the more you practice, the easier it gets. My friend Joan told me she used to cave every time her son laid on the guilt about not visiting enough. But one day, she said, "I miss you too, Han. Why don't you swing by here when you're free?" Suddenly, the ball was back in his court, and she didn't feel like the bad guy. It's not about winning a battle, it's about keeping your peace intact. Guilt's a heavy load to carry, especially after 60, when we're trying to lighten up and enjoy ourselves a bit more. So, next time it comes knocking, just give it a little redirect and watch how much lighter you feel. And while we're on the subject of feeling good about where we stand, let's think about how we talk to our family about what we need. Clear communication isn't just for the young folks figuring out life. It's a gift we can give ourselves at any age. How often do we hint at what we want, hoping they'll pick up on it, only to end up frustrated when they don't? I'll admit, I used to do that all the time. I'd sigh and say, "Oh, I'm just so tired," expecting my husband to magically know I needed a break from hosting Sunday dinners. Spoiler, he didn't get it, and I'd stew about it for days. But here's what I've learned. Being straight with them works wonders. It doesn't have to be a big confrontation, just a calm, clear, "Here's what I need right now." Maybe it's telling your kids, "I love our long phone chats, but I'm going to keep them to 20 minutes so I can rest afterward." Or saying to your sister, "I'm happy to help with planning the trip, but I need you to handle the details this time." I started doing this with my daughter when she'd call late at night to vent about work. I'd say, "I'm here for you, but let's talk before 9. It's better for my sleep." She was surprised at first, but she got it. And now we've got a rhythm that works for both of us. It's like drawing a line in the sand, but with love, not anger. You're not demanding, you're just letting them know where you're at, and that builds respect both ways. The best part? When you're clear about your needs, it takes the guesswork out of it, for you and for them. My cousin Ed told me he finally told his grown kids, "I can't do the big holiday cooking anymore. Let's make it a potluck." He was nervous they'd be upset, but they jumped at the idea, and now it's a new tradition. It's funny how we sometimes think they'll fall apart without us doing everything, but they're tougher than we give them credit for. So, give it a try. Speak up about what you need, nice and simple, and watch how it frees you up to enjoy them even more. We're rolling right along here, aren't we? Saying no, carving out time, redirecting guilt, and speaking up. It's all coming together like pieces of a puzzle. Let's keep this going and see how it all fits into reclaiming that peace you deserve. All right, we've been having a good heart-to-heart about keeping your emotional energy in a happy place. Saying no with kindness, carving out your own little slice of time, redirecting those sneaky guilt trips, and speaking up about what you need. It's like we're building a cozy little nest for your peace of mind, piece by piece. And now, let's polish it off with a few more thoughts to make sure you're feeling strong and steady, no matter what family throws your way. One thing I've noticed as we get into our 60s and beyond is how easy it can be to slip into feeling like we owe everyone all of our time and energy. Maybe it's because we've spent decades being the rock, the one who hosts, who listens, who fixes things. But here's a gentle reminder. You're allowed to step back and let others step up. It's not about loving them less, it's about loving yourself more too. When you set these boundaries, like that polite no or that clear, here's what I need, you're not just protecting your peace, you're showing yourself some respect. And that's a powerful thing. I think of my friend Clara, who used to say yes to every family errand until she was running on fumes. She started turning down the small stuff, little favors that piled up. And you know what? Her kids figured out how to manage, and she got her weekends back. She told me she feels like a new woman, and I believe it. She's got this glow about her now. And speaking of feeling good, let's talk about what happens when you stick with this for a while. It's not like everything changes overnight. Family's still family, after all, and they'll test your patience now and then. But little by little, you'll notice the weight lifting. Those moments when you'd feel drained or resentful, they start fading. Instead, you get to enjoy the time you do spend with them because it's on your terms too. I've seen it in my own life. Once I stopped jumping at every request and started guarding my quiet evenings, I actually looked forward to our family dinners again. It's like I'd forgotten how much I loved their laughter until I wasn't too tired to hear it. That's what these boundaries do. They don't push people away. They pull you closer in a way that feels right. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, this all sounds great, but my family's going to flip, I get it. Change can feel wobbly at first. Maybe your son will huff when you say no to babysitting, or your sister will give you that look when you suggest she handle something herself. But here's the truth. They'll adjust. They might grumble a bit, but they love you and they'll figure it out. And the ones who really care, they'll start to see how much happier you are, and that's worth more than a dozen guilt trips. My nephew used to call me every other day for advice, even when I was worn out. I finally said, I love our talks, but let's make it once a week. I need a breather. He wasn't thrilled at first, but now he respects it, and our chats are better because I'm actually present. It's a shift, not a showdown, and it works. So, where does that leave us? With a handful of simple tools, saying no without the fuss, scheduling your own time like it's sacred, nudging guilt aside, and being clear about what you need. They're not big, flashy fixes, but they're yours to use whenever you need them. And they add up to something pretty special. A life where you're not just pouring yourself out for everyone else, but filling yourself up too. You've spent years being there for them. Now it's time to be there for you in a way that keeps your heart light and your spirit strong. What do you think? Does any of this ring true for you? Have you ever tried setting a boundary that worked, or maybe one that didn't go quite as planned? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments. Your experiences always teach me something new. And if this hit home for you, give the video a little like. It lets me know you're out there cheering me on. Oh, and if you want more ideas like this, hit that subscribe button. I've got plenty more to share. Here's to reclaiming your peace, my friends, and living these years with all the joy you deserve. You've got this.